in any kind of auditing and checking process in finance, prevalent method was sampling. As the AI got more capable, the capabilities that it had and the impact that can have in an organization just, I think, exponentially increased. Talked about compliance being the driver.
Finance was traditionally being seen as a surveillance organization, but now by giving people that bigger purpose in transformation, you can truly lift the company up and lift a lot of people up along this journey. Meet Anant Kale, CEO of AppZen, an artificial intelligence platform for modern finance teams. He has more than 15 years of experience in developing complex software. His diverse experience across engineering, finance, and product gave him insights into how unstructured data creates bottlenecks in business processes.
If you're able to take some of that decision making away, which used to be done by humans, into machines, right? You are actually moving needle in terms of automations.
Not only as a CFO am I looking at maximizing the human potential within my organization, my headcount, but also think about everybody else around it. It's actually not just the time, it's also the mental load.
As the workflows got it embedded into the process with AI, with AI agents, you are able to imagine what this really means for the entire organization, right? And that's, I think, is wall that has become super valuable for the office of the CFO.
If there's one piece of advice you would give to a CFO or a finance leader in an organization today, and the company may not be leading this transformation yet.
There are lots of initiatives. I think CFOs are sitting because
Hi, Anant. So great to have you on AI Heroes and Headaches. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Vivienne. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Looking forward to this chat.
Yeah, and huge congratulations on your raise for AppZen recently.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's been amazing to have a new partner on board who's equally excited about agentic AI as we are. So we are doing everything we can to make the most out of this massive opportunity.
Great, great. Well, let's get started. First of all, you have a very fascinating background, right? You started in corporate planning in the finance organization, and over time now you're the CEO of AppZen. Tell us about that journey and then what motivated you to start the company.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, the journey started way back. I did my engineering and worked as a structural engineer for some time. Went back to school, did finance, and started my job in finance. So I've been trained in finance, worked in corporate finance for a while, and before I stepped into a role which allowed me to use those skills internally within the company and got into product when I was working at Fujitsu for many years. I joined as an application architect and rose up to be a vice president. But I think as I went through different roles out there, it was always about, hey, learning new things and applying and kind of doing business process re-engineering, business process changes, how to evolve as an organization. And I think that exposed me a lot to different facets of a company building, and obviously got me excited and curious that, hey, I'm living in the Silicon Valley and there's so much innovation going around me. How do I be a part of that? It was just about waiting for the right opportunity. I think as with probably every entrepreneur you talk to, it's never feels like, hey, I should have done this earlier. And it felt the same thing for me as well when I finally took the step to start AppZen. I had worked for 10 plus years, and I was like, oh man, if I don't do it now, I have a family, I got kids. It always feels harder to do it. But if I don't do it now, I'm probably never going to do it. So let me just go ahead and take the plunge and start this something which I believe in which was AppZen.
That's amazing. So you've kind of mastered the language of finance for being the finance organization and then being the engineer by training. Now you're like, hey, let me do this startup to solve acute problem in finance, which is a lot of what we talk about is like, hey, automation to autonomy in the AI world. And you're pretty early in the AI journey, right? You've been at it for the last what 13 years. Tell us about some of the early lessons from that journey.
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of things that came together when me and my co-founder Kunal Verma, we live on the same street in Sunnyvale, and he was a researcher at Accenture Labs, doing research in NLP, and our thought process was like, hey, we are seeing all this stuff around language. come around, like things for Siri and I'm dating myself. Those were introduced. Now we don't even think about it. But those were the first times we really felt that, oh wow, this is cool. This is unstructured data. This is language, and we have never been able to do anything which would a machine work with it, right? And with my experience, working in finance, working in an applications area, right? What I always noticed was everything stops when there is unstructured data. Any process, any work stops when there is unstructured data, and it generally is in documents. And you're looking at a document, machine stops and says that, hey, human, take over, look at it, read it, understand it, and take a decision. So our thinking was that if we kind of solve that problem, if we were take our steps in that direction, right? If you are able to take some of that decision making away, which used to be done by humans, into machines, right? You are actually moving the needle in terms of automation, something which has not been tried before, right? So that was really the case for us to go out and start AppZen. It was obviously a very different era in terms of where AI was, where data science was. It was building handcrafting models, the more of prediction models, and figuring out how do you get them more accurate, right? But those were really the seeds of us figuring out, hey, here are these finance workflows. If I can make a really domain specific, work specific model to automate some of those decision making, or in fact, even not even take those decisions, have to take those decisions, I think we'll be building something significant out there. And that was really what we did with our first product on expense auditing.
Wow, that's amazing from a journey standpoint. And what I also heard was, hey, before this is even talked about widely about processing unstructured data, you had already seen that potential. And tell us about some of the challenges you were faced with in processing that unstructured data.
Yeah, I think there are many. One is to have a vision of a, yeah, I can solve it, but
Yeah.
then it's have to be grounded into something that is valuable and something that you can really have a trust built in. Like when we started this off, when we built this product, or we were rather building this product, as you all know, first aspect is getting data on which you can train your models on, figuring out what are the things that you should look for if you're trying to build models to do specific tasks, what those things should be. So basically talking to auditors, figuring out what they were looking for, how were they finding fraud, what was the misuse that you were looking, and then architecting it in such a way that you can find those patterns in through models that you're building, right? But then the second part of it is, everyone still looks at, or rather looked at it at that time, AI as a science project. It was obviously not prevalent 10 years ago that you would use AI as a part of your process, right? And honestly, it was not at the level of accuracy and outcomes that we can get from today's version of AI. So
Mhm.
how do you build trust in a technology that is nascent, that is still being built up, and you put it in front of an organization that is risk averse? Like finance is not an organization which would easily adopt new technologies. They would wait for something to be hardened, because you're dealing with financial data, you're dealing with compliance, you're dealing with not having the errors that can get in with marketing or sales we happen in finance, right? So for us, from day one, we had to find a use case which would actually increase compliance, right? And that's what we found with what we did with expense auditing. And frankly, when I looked at the industry, that why would somebody, a CFO, take a step in AI, researching that auditing space told me that people were already making compromises. And what I mean by that, in any kind of auditing and checking process in finance, the prevalent method was sampling. Essentially, you don't have enough people to look at 100% of the data,
Right.
so you try to do sampling and you say that, hey, let me look at these and see if I can find anything. That means let me
Mhm.
audit. And the second most prevalent way of finance putting those controls in place is, let me hand over that decision making and checking back to the business. Somebody in the sales organization who's spending, let their manager go and check it. Right. So that's kind of the way that they were building controls. So we saw that, hey, even if we are able to not do everything accurately 100% of the time, but if you're able to bring out which are the areas where we think are problematic, where are the anomalies, where are the problems, and why? give them
Mhm.
that flexibility. Because if you look at the product that we were solving was
Yep.
around expenses, really hard things that were in the receipts. Those where there's no way on earth that anybody could hire people to look through all of that stuff, right? So we said that, hey, if we're able to do that, that's going to be enormously valuable to the CFO because they're already making compromises. So finding at that point of time a use case that would resonate and actually work for a CFO by taking a technology leap into AI, because it was showing them where are the holes, where are the risks that I have in my company, and at the same time saving them tons of money. That was, I think, really useful for them in
Mhm.
something which probably they wouldn't have in the ordinary scheme of things.
Yeah, in other words, you've helped the CFO solve a problem of, hey, how do you have better controls and reinforce the controls by sharing and automating a part of the business that, they didn't necessarily have tools for. So that's like augmenting capabilities, right? Because in the AI world, we always talk about, oh, if I have an agent, if I have the automated workflow, oh, people are going to lose jobs. But the reality is, you're saying, "Hey, this is actually a strategic advantage for the CFO."
Yeah, absolutely. You said it rightly, and it has evolved over the years. Even when we started off, it was more compliance, but any product that a CFO buys has to be, as somebody told me, a vice CFO told me, it has to be 10x in terms of ROI versus anything else I'm spending. I'm a GNA organization.
Yeah.
We have cost that we have to take out, and so if you're going to provide me something, it better be very valuable from a compliance, but also saving costs. So we were able to save a ton of leakage in the company. That was super important, right, for the companies to
Mhm.
buy. And then as things I think evolved, as the AI got more popular, also more capable, as we introduced transformers, as we introduced LLMs, the capabilities that it had and the impact that can have in an organization just I think exponentially increased. I talked about compliance being the driver, then the savings in spend leakage, the end user experience. That why am I even having people as a part of my workflow? I'm a service organization. If I think of a,
Mhm.
a service organization for the rest of the company, what kind of service am I providing to the rest of the company? Am I taking away time for which these people were hired for? My sales guy, my customer guy, my product guy, they could do a lot more work in their respective fields if they were not doing work for me, right? And that would be far more valuable. So,
Mm.
so
Mhm.
they started looking at the entire experience that they were providing to their end users, and that you could eliminate some of those workflows, eliminate the participants in the workflows, and take away the time from them, and that becomes actually even more valuable than labor cost savings that you might
Yes.
have in your own finance organization, right? So I think as those capabilities increased of the models, as the workflows got it embedded into the process, with AI, with AI agents, you are
Yeah.
able to imagine what this really means for the entire organization, right? And that's I think is has evolved and has become super valuable for the office of the CFO.
I really love what you just shared, which is, hey, not only as a CFO am I looking at maximize the human potential within my organization, my headcount, but also think about everybody else around it. In you earlier decide that we're sharing, hey, compliance for compliance purposes, I had to put some of the work back into the managers and the sales and engineering organization, which is like in my mind, for a CTO organization, some of the most expensive resources that are building the product. But if the tool is able to harness back, give time back to these people, the value is a multiplying effort. It's just not just by the hours, right?
Exactly. It is crazy when you start thinking of it on how much time people spend, your engineers spend doing work,
Yep.
which is not the engineering work to build the products,
Yep.
or customers or chip designers or investment bankers, in right?
Yes.
They're spending their time doing work which is not their work, but work for somebody else in the company. And if you
Yes.
start taking that away, you are increasing the productivity or adding headcount to the rest of the organization, which is defining more revenue, right? So it's a different way of thinking. I think a lot of CFOs now are thinking that way. And we have had some our customers who are really forward thinking. These are some major corporations, very forward thinking, and we learn from them. Hey, this is would be more practical for me. This would be more
Mhm.
impactful for me. And can you build your AI? Can you build your process so I can take those hours away? And that's
Yeah.
how we have evolved our product, listening to these CFOs on how they think about the organization, and that thing has been really impactful.
Yeah, I love that, and can I add one more thing? It's actually not just the time, it's also the mental load. I would prefer for my engineers to not think about expense approval at all. They
Totally.
should be thinking about forward, future, latest innovations. Don't think about process.
Yeah, interesting you say that. One CFO described to me that, hey, they all look at us as being the police, right?
Mhm.
And because they want approvals from the engineer, like you said, or the bank on the expense report, or it might be an invoice that you're approving, right? All of them, you're delegating the work to them, saying that, hey, you did it, right? So you are being the police, right? So that stresses them because they want to
Mhm.
do their job properly. Now they
Yeah.
might be pressing the button, but when you take that away and only involve them when you have done all the work and told them, hey, you don't have to worry about it. I'm already doing all the checking. I
Mhm.
don't have, but my AI is doing all the checking. But here is what I found, and here is seems something wrong, which you need to talk to your employee about, right? And here is where I need your
Mm. Mhm.
going to spend far more attention, and they are going to place a far more value in the help that you're providing them to manage their teams better versus
Mhm.
step to police to the policing work and
Yeah.
take off trying to make everything compliant. I think that's a major shift, and that's what is really changes the way we think of the how organizations and workflows are created.
Yeah, this is amazing. So, okay, tell us about the new AI agent studio that's turning the finance SOPs into the digital coworkers. If I'm a CFO, how do I harness the power of the technology and drive that perception change and lead organizational change management?
Yeah, I mean, for us, this has been something that we strived right from day one on.
Yep.
Hey, can AI do the work?
Yeah.
And AI couldn't do the work. AI could help you do the work, but couldn't do the work because one, you got to be highly accurate, you got to be confident about it, and you got to be able to execute the work. So we had always taken steps into going in that direction. That hey, can we create a process? Can we do a process automation? Can we have AI doing the work, right? But when we started thinking about AI agents and what LLMs and reasoning could do, that took it to the next level, right? And then what for us when I think about my customers and whom we serve is our CFOs, right? If you think about CFOs, they have services organization. They are generally it could be anything. It could be their FP&A, could be their P2P, order to cash, whatever those organizations are, which are serving different parts of the business. They are basically keeping the company's operations running, right?
Mhm.
And they are a cost center, and they have always invested in lots and lots of automation tools. But the only place where they have had to sacrifice is, hey, there are decisions that people are making in my team. They're either entering invoices or auditing expense reports or making sure suppliers are paid, which are manual in nature. And I cannot replace them. No technology has been able to replace them. So what did I do? Those CFOs had been on a treadmill of outsourcing or moving their job
Mhm. Mhm.
way to cut the cost down. And that's why you see a massive amount of industry where BPOs have taken over, armies of people doing this job, right?
Mhm.
Because really, CFOs didn't have an option out. They didn't have a way out. Centralize the operations, call it global shared services centers, spread it across Eastern Europe, India, Philippines, you name it. They all had different
Mhm.
ways of doing that stuff. So when you because the bottleneck was the human decision making, right?
Mhm.
When the capabilities of what you can do with agents, you really understand that can these agents, if they are truly doing the work, replace some of the things that these people are doing, then you start thinking of, hey, actually this process gets autonomous because those people are not involved in taking those decisions. So the
Mhm.
approach we took with AI Agent Studio was, hey, how am I managing my people? I have 10 people working in accounts payable or in expense or T&E or cards,
Mhm.
right? How
Yep.
do I manage these people? We saw that, hey, people write standard operating procedures, work instructions. Hey, this is how you do your work. This is what you look for. This is what you do. This is the actions you take. If this happens, if the supplier is not paying, delivering the goods, this is what you want to do, right? And there are massive amounts of work instructions being written because you're trying to make that process repeatable. You're trying to make that process comply. So the work that you're doing is documenting, documenting, documenting. So we say, what would be the fastest way of converting that work into an autonomous operation? So that's what we did with the AI Agent Studio. We essentially created a way of taking those work instructions and literally pasting them into a workspace
Yep.
where the agent understood what these work instructions were because the model understands all of this stuff. What are the different, when do I have to do this work? What kind of thinking I got to do? What kind of data I got to understand? What are
Mhm.
the decisions I got to take? And then what are actions I got to take, right? And we created this studio is really nothing but converting my manual instructions, the instructions that I already wrote for my finance staff,
Mhm.
so that an AI agent can follow them, right? And that's really what the power is, because literally today, what you can do in the product is you can you as a finance manager, you can say, oh, this is my work instruction. Let me copy paste it out here, and we have an assistant which guides you into best practices, making sure you're not making any mistakes. And within a couple of minutes, you have your instruction converted into an agent. You can then test it out there. You can see that, hey, how is this working on an invoice that I received, right? Or how is this working on an expense? You can
Mhm.
test it out there. Then you can simulate it. Oh, it is working well on this invoice. Let me simulate it on maybe next 100 invoices and see what is the decision the agent is taking, what is the action the agent is taking versus what a human would have done. And that
Mhm.
built that governance layer because of the agent is ours, the
Yep.
governance is ours, and the workflow, the deep workflow is also ours. That's a part of the AppZen platform, right? You are able to say confidently that I can replace this instructions that I have. I can tear up
Mhm.
that SOP which I had
Yeah.
and replace it with this agent. So that is the real power of what we have built with the AI Agent Studio. It's not about, hey, just looking up information, because
Yeah.
agent again is a word that people are using very loosely. Here
Yeah.
it is. This is doing the work for you. This is how
Yes.
you get people to do the work. This is how the agent is doing work. And that makes it so real. You can What I'm hearing from our customers is, of course, it's replacing a lot of work that the people are doing. 50% of the work is kind of the goal. How can you deploy agents for that? But more importantly, they are able to do the checks. They are able to do the compliance steps, which they didn't even do attempt to do before, right? Because it was simply would have required too much manpower. So that's the speed of execution has gone up, right? Which
Mm. Mhm.
gets delays. They can ensure things don't get stuck up, right? And
Mhm.
again, not involving the end users is one of those things, right? So I think agents are just exponentially increasing what
Yeah.
that optimization looks like by moving that manual work onto a digital coworker.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and I do see, with we also have like Agent Force 360 that literally like you can take the organizational context and train the agents with specific topics and the guardrails, right, to provide that level of governance. Say more about the specific finance area, because I mean that's the target area, right? Do you have to train specific models? Do you have to train the agent a little bit differently? How should we think about that?
Yeah, I think finance area is a little bit tricky. You cannot afford to make any mistakes. Period. Right. That's number one. There are very deep workflows that happen out here. Right.
Mhm,
So like some of the tasks which might be bespoke, which you can use a chat GPT or anything for it. Unlike that, here in a finance in an organization, you are working with your existing systems. You're not going to replace the system. So of
mhm,
course, generally use some of the enterprise systems, SAP, Workday, Oracle, NetSuite, things like that, right? So you got to
mhm,
work within those systems, have those deep connections within those systems, use the tools that they are using on a daily life, like email or things like that. And then on top of that, making the decisions which are accurate. So there are a couple of layers to this. We obviously have to use our own models. Majority of the work that gets done is through what we call is our Zen LM models. These are like, think of them like smaller language models, but
mhm,
there are that we have trained, we have made into being highly accurate decision making for a very small domain that we have, right? So it's not even, it may not be for the entire accounts payable. It might be just a single part of an invoice, which is how do I code the invoice, right? How do I So now for that specific use case, we have a model or series of models which will do it very, very, very accurately. And then there are guardrails built within it so that if the model is not confident, it has
Mhm.
to go over to a human, right? So that to review it. Same thing, a model to determine, hey, in my expense report that I have out here, has somebody watched in-room movies in the hotel bill, right? There's a model very specific just to decide that, right?
Yep.
So the idea here is that if you want to really automate something in finance,
Yeah.
you got to be you're going to be a domain expert, better than the best person who has done this for years, right? And had the same level of insight and accuracy into doing that work. But you have to build in those guardrails to say that, hey, if I'm not so sure about it, because I
Yep.
don't have training it or whatever, right? I should be able to hand it off to a human because you cannot compromise, you cannot hallucinate. Those are absolute no-nos in
Yep.
the finance world, right? And third, you got to be building within the ecosystem that the finance teams works with. You
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
make that the time to value, the deployment is really easy. And it's for them, it seems like just another way of adding, instead of adding human work, I'm adding a.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. So the defensible model of Zen LM, that's very specific for finance organization. Then the second component is, how do you have to be integrated into how people work, right? Because people don't like to change.
Exactly.
Um, and in the AI world, the things change very rapidly. How have you kind of navigated this, between daily changes from the AI, the landscape and setting the vision, then to execution? And I think about from like a CEO perspective, a lot of CEOs and customers want to be, hey, I want to become this agentic enterprise. What's your advice?
Yeah, I think that's something that I think I've been working very closely with customers, right?
Mhm.
Specifically on the customer side. I think some years ago, I would say we were all not directly talking about AI really replacing workers. It was not, but it could potentially, but nobody was talking openly about it, right? But today, I think with every earnings call you hear, you hear about, hey, I'm not going to hire any more engineers. I'm not going to hire any more headcount because I expect AI to improve productivity, or or the other way around, which is we're going to cut down costs because we're going to reduce AI, right? So AI has become kind of front and center, and obviously means that there is a workforce impact in some way or the other.
Mhm.
The real challenge is, I think, the changes along that. So when you think about an organization, a team,
Mhm.
a accounts payable team or a card team, you have a team of people who are all aligned, motivated to attain the objective. And these are real people you're managing, right?
Mhm.
And when they are facing a technology like this,
Mhm.
which really feels like, hey, it is going to be impactful to the company, transformational to the company, but is going to cause a problem, right? How do I get it within my team in a way that people can aspire to it? And then how do I and a project like this will fail if the leaders in the team who know the actual process, right, are not bought in. So
Mhm.
the concept of hybrid teams comes in place, right? So we have kind of created this roadmap for our customers on, hey, going to introduce a few agents in your team,
Mhm.
right? And your team is going to look a bit differently. It's going to have more people and less agents, right?
Yep.
The
Yep.
agents increase, right? You know what's going to happen. Like the agents are still going to increase. But for the first order is that how do we find a leader? How do you find people within your team who will
Mhm.
lead to this, right? So, what are the characteristics of that? Are those people using ChatGPT on a daily basis, right? Are they suspicious of technology, right? Are they going to come in? So, we're helping them guide into this. We are helping them guide into that. Hey, what does it mean for them?
Mhm.
Sort of advancements. What are
Mhm.
the changes to their career, their own trajectory
Yeah.
that can happen, and what is the higher goal that we are putting in? Obviously, for companies and customers and teams who have outsourced operations, those decisions are easier to make. But when there are, because they can easily to get rid of the outsource operation and say that, hey, my core team is going to do everything because I
Mhm.
replace the entire team with AI agents, right? I mean, which is happening with a lot of our customers. But for teams which are already in house, right? They are generally we have to help them navigate through this and
Mhm.
create what we call as in our customers coined this name, but they call it AI agent boss, which means that, hey, I'm an AI agent boss. how do I deploy these agents in a way that is improving the productivity, also managing my team. So we are actually in the midst of creating some coursework for that as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's actually very similar to what we're seeing in the market as I work with a lot of customers around the world. I think of we've essentially created this new class of jobs that are agent managers. And these people need to be AI native and want to learn and continue to experiment and be the trailblazers or, agent blazers in their organization. And part of this, to your point, it's we need to harness the power of that subject matter expertise, right? Because these are the people who actually know the knowledge. And to your point, also within your AI agent studio, these are the instructions that need to go into the studio that build the agent, but how are you evaluating it? It's the people with the subject matter expertise who can tell, hey, are we getting that outcome as desired or not? But I think the last thing, which is the most important thing you called out, is the vision setting and the higher goals of that organization. Because there's too much fear,
Yeah.
it's not great for transformation. And where you're saying, "Hey, let's aspire and give people that bigger purpose to do better work."
I think transformation based on a negative outcome, right, is doesn't lead to, or fear, like you said, doesn't lead to true transformation. There is too much resistance, and it's not going to happen. You have to set the vision. I think the companies where I've seen this successfully done and
Yeah.
has come from the CEO top. These are large corporations.
Mm.
From the CEO top, it has come in that we are going to transform organization because here is what it lets us do for our customers, right?
Yes.
And it reminds me of the story about putting a man on the moon. But the I see people who have really, said that, hey, how I can contribute to the vision of our CFO, our CEO. They're
Yes.
set up, and I think I can be a part of that by doing my bit. Right? It almost feels like somebody who can attach themselves to the vision of that CEO that they want to do, and this is how it's going to happen to their company, and they get highly energized in doing that. These are practitioners within the organization who probably didn't have any face time with the CEO.
Mhm.
You never were counted on saying that, hey, you go do something transformational for the company. And they say that, oh, I actually have seen this technology. I think I can adopt it. And maybe there's nobody else doing it because
Mhm.
everybody, IT, everybody's kind of running around trying to do these projects. But I have
Mhm.
something I can deploy. And I've seen this in multiple companies where customers have told me, hey, we are the first ones who are
Mhm.
deploying AI agents. And I was called out first time in my all hands, right? With this big company, the CEO never talks about my team,
Yeah.
never been called out, and now I called out as somebody who's doing this, and they're
Yeah.
sending us, asking us set an example for other teams, right? And they feel so inspired about it. Actually, makes me feel inspired that I can do something for them, right? But I think if they every kind of company which truly wants to embrace this,
Yeah.
comes top down and saying that, hey, be a part of this. This is what we want to do. It really inspires people. The right kind of
Yeah.
people inspired, and they lean into it.
I absolutely love this story of, hey, finance was traditionally being seen as a surveillance organization, but now by giving people that bigger purpose in transformation, and then if the CEO elevates those voices, the leaders who are willing to drive change, experiment, and try, you can truly lift the company up and lift a lot of people up along this journey. This is fantastic. Thank you so much. Let me ask one last thing. If there's one piece of advice you would give to a CFO or a finance leader in an organization today, and the company may not be leading this transformation yet, what would it be?
Yeah, I think there are lots of initiatives. I think the CFOs
Mhm.
are struggling because every company out there is talking about agents and what does it mean for them. Every CIO is asking for investment in agents, right? I think with LLMs, with the technology has been democratized, right? You get access to the best AI models in the world, but
Yes.
that's not the thing, right? What do you do with them is most important, and I think the most important thing is what is the time to value. The old way of creating an IT project, trying to do everything yourself and figuring out what the ROI is I think done, dead. We all know living in the Silicon Valley, how new companies have reason which have like within 10 people gone to millions of dollars of revenue, because it's a product led, which is try and do. You can see that value being so short. So I think the CFOs who are really thinking about it, right? They don't have to think about it, whatever massive investments I have to do in getting this off the ground. They got to look around and see what are the areas that they want to transform. They think they have the largest opportunity. And in many cases, when CFOs look around, accounts payable, the spend side of the areas, which are like kind of low risk, but give the
Yeah.
higher cost, are generally areas where you will find the lowest risk, but the highest kind of ROI, right? Go and do a pilot with whoever you want to do this with. Don't give it more than a month or two, because anybody should be able to do this within a short period of time, show you hard savings, show you that automation, autonomous transformation, right? And just go for it, right? Because you will see it. If somebody is signing up for 6 months, year-long project investments up, this is that they're not true autonomous agentic AI. So I think that would be the case. Anything that you're trying to transform, the time to value has to be really, really short. You're talking about weeks here.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for the great advice. Find the use case that delivers the value, partner with the technology, and experiment. Don't give it more than 2 months.
Yeah.
But to the fastest time to value. Thank you so much for this conversation. Very, very energizing. Appreciate your time, Anant.
Thank you, Vivienne. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.